From the King George's Estates outside of downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Good Friday evening, everybody. Welcome back to KC in 60 right here on DARPATV.com. Kevin Knessa here with you for the next hour or so. And to all of our regulars, I welcome you back to the program. And to anybody who may be here for the very first time, I welcome you to the program for the first time as well. And of course, it is certainly good to see some old faces here, including Petey Kirchner, who is here, and also see Keith here, too. So, Keith, good to see you, buddy. I'm thinking that it's probably Keith Smolin, but I'm not 100% sure. But if I had to put my money on it, I would probably say that's the Keith here. So you can let me know for sure if it is. But if it in fact is, Keith is responsible for some of the greatest videos on YouTube. He has this collection of a remarkable collection of WFAN bits from years and years ago when supposedly, as Francesca says, they didn't record the shows. And a lot of these videos have made their way onto YouTube, and there's some great moments for those of you who are WFAN nuts like we are. There's some just phenomenal stuff. And there's also some great videos as well that he has up there on YouTube as well, from the Imus days of MSNBC, of course it's the Fear at the Pier, some great stuff. So Keith's one of the great guys out there. Check him out on YouTube. Keith Radio 9 is his handle on YouTube. So good to see you, Keith, and of course Rick Santorum, all the way out in the great state of Utah. It's always nice to have you here, and it's always good to see you and Petey, who we haven't seen in a while, too. Of course, I haven't seen anybody in a while because I haven't done a show all that much in the last couple of months, but we've done quite a few in the last 2 weeks, and it is certainly good to be back and doing things here on DARPA TV, where, of course, I start off every show plugging Joel's show, which you can catch here. He'll be doing shows Monday and Tuesday nights on DARPA TV, and then, of course, on Thursday night on Sports Rants Radio. We had a series of technical difficulties last night. There were storms all over the East Coast. It just opened up. The skies were ridiculous here in South Jersey and in Florida as well. And I think because, because Joel used Skype to broadcast yesterday, it made it really difficult, and it kept getting cut off, and things were in and out. It was pretty bad yesterday, but Joel does the show on Sports Rants Radio, 7 to 9 p.m. every Thursday night, as long as he can stay on the air. So hope you'll take a look and tune in to Joel's show. I'm having trouble talking today. I have no idea why. There's something wrong with me. I just can't concentrate right. At any rate, there's a bunch of things that I want to get to today. The one thing I must admit, a couple of days ago, Jimmy Graham sent me a video, and there was a video. The reason he showed it to me, I'm not going to get into, but I actually wound up watching the whole thing, and it gave some wonderful tips on running a successful internet-based television/radio show. And one of the things that they kept talking about over and over was bringing unique content to viewers, things that you cannot find on terrestrial radio, things that you cannot find in other locations. And that's what I strive to do when I do a show here, is to bring up topics and to bring in stories that maybe get kind of glanced at on the news or are quickly covered in newspapers, but that don't get a hell of a lot of attention. And I like to bring extra attention to a lot of those stories. So bringing some sort of unique flavor to the program. Now, I'm going to get to the Chick-fil-A thing a little bit later because it's getting even more bizarre. Their vice president for communications wound up dropping dead of a heart attack today. And there's a lot going on with that. And Tim Thomas, formerly of the Boston Bruins, speaks up again, stupid asshole that he is, about Chick-fil-A and how he supports them. But I'll get to that later. But I want to start off with a story that maybe not everybody heard about across the country. This is something that happened in New York City just a couple of days ago. A man from Ohio killed somebody, and he sought out a Catholic church because he wanted to let somebody know that he had killed somebody. Okay, now this is something interesting because the story that I want to the discussion I want to have is a little bit about what happens when you're in a confessional. For those of you who are Catholic, you will know a little bit about this. If you're not Catholic, you're going to be surprised, perhaps, to hear about some of the rules that go along with confession. But first, I want to show you the story And we'll talk about it on the other side. This again from New York City. A man confesses that he murdered someone to a Roman Catholic priest in Manhattan.
Police say a man on the run went into a church in Midtown looking to confess to a really big, dark secret.
The Post says Jonathan Smith told a priest at St. Francis of Assisi that he killed his girlfriend back in Ohio. Fox 5's Antoine Lewis is live in Midtown with this story. Antoine.
Very bizarre here. Let's show you the Post headline. They are the ones that broke this story, if you will. And you can see by looking at the cover page, it says, "Forgive me, Father, I have sinned." And as you pointed out, Dave, the suspect, 48-year-old Jonathan Smith, says that he murdered his girlfriend back in Columbus, Ohio, sometime on or about July 14th. So here's what the article goes into, that apparently after the murder, Smith drove here from Columbus to New York. He ditched his car somewhere here in Midtown. And then apparently, according to the Post, that he was so guilt-stricken over the murder that he says that he did, that he came here into the area, stumbled upon St. Francis of Assisi Church, grabbed the first priest that he saw, and then confessed. Now, of course, Catholicism forbids anything that's confessed during a confessional. Within the confessional, priests cannot divulge that information, but the Post is quoting a parish priest here who says that because this happened as more of a man just trying to relieve his conscience, it didn't take place in the capacity of a true formal sacramental confession, that therein lies the difference. Therein lies the difference between the two. And that's how the authorities came to be involved. Subsequently, they were contacted. They came here to get the suspect and then take him away. Here's a little bit more what we know about this person. 48-year-old Jonathan Smith. Apparently, he and his girlfriend lived together. He confessed to bludgeoning her to death. And then apparently, he's accused of starting a fire in an attempt, according to authorities, to cover up evidence. Now, the Post also quotes the girl's mother, who expresses some relief. Her 68-year-old mother expresses some relief that Smith did turn himself in. She says that she now is relieved that he will be able to stand, and accused for his crime. He'll be able to face justice for it. And she was worried that, she said, even though she suspected him all along, she was kind of concerned that he may have tried to harm himself, perhaps kill suicide in an attempt to get out of it. So again, very bizarre. And there you have the difference as far as how he was able to express what he did to a priest and why that did not go against what Catholicism forbids. We'll, of course, keep you updated. We'll be reporting on this throughout the morning. But for now, we are in Midtown. Dave and Rosanna, back to you.
Just quickly, before I get to the story, we're talking in the chat room. Yeah, WPIX does have a morning news program. They've had it for a while. And Lionel is now doing the early portion of the show. And, it's awful. It is just absolutely awful. But that's another story for another day. This story I found very intriguing for numerous reasons. There were some people who, when they first heard the story, were questioning how it was possible that a priest could hear a confession from a murderer and then go to the police with it. It didn't happen within the confines of a confessional box. But this is something that has always, I guess, bugged the living daylights out of me in a sense. And that is that if a person enters a confessional with a Roman Catholic priest, and it is under the guise of the sacrament of reconciliation. You go in there, you bless yourself in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been 4 years since my last confession. Okay, tell me what your sins are. I murdered somebody last week in Ohio. By canonical law, the priest is not permitted under any circumstances to say to the authorities that he heard a confession of a person who committed a murder. It is not permissible for a priest to break. There's an absolute seal of privacy when it comes to offering confession in the Catholic Church. And priests are protected by the law from having to make it known that a person has confessed to them of any kind of crime of significance, whether it's murder, or sexual abuse, or anything of that nature. So this is something that has been rather intriguing to me. I once asked a Catholic priest friend of mine when I was working in the Catholic Church, and this was, I guess, in the early 2000s. I want to say it must have been around 2002. I said, Father, what would you do if, hypothetically speaking, somebody who you knew came into the confessional and basically confessed to you that the person committed a first-degree murder? And the priest, who is a very, very smart man, very, very smart guy, basically says that he couldn't. There's absolutely nothing he could do to tell the police. Now, what I found intriguing is that the priest said that he, of course, would be duty-bound, and not just by the precepts of the church, but by ethical standards, to try to convince the person who is confessing to such a crime to tell the police or tell the authorities what he or she did in the form of a crime. But under no obligation whatsoever would that priest be able, would he be required to say anything to the police. And nothing can happen to a priest for keeping quiet about it. You have no other choice. What you hear in the confessional cannot be discussed with anybody. You know, it's intriguing because I've said to priests, you know, what have you heard as a priest? They'll give you, some of them will give you generalities about things that they've heard in confessionals. They'll say, oh, well, somebody confessed to me to cheating on a wife or a husband, or, you know, I've heard somebody talk about stealing from a store. They can't obviously tell you who said what and under what pretense and things of that nature, but they're not allowed to speak anything that happens in a confessional. I find it very intriguing and very difficult to understand how a person could really not say something, though. I don't know. If you take it one step further, we've been talking a lot about Jerry Sandusky, and we'll talk about him a little bit later on in the program, too, because of these new voicemails that just came out that he had apparently left on the voicemail of victim number 2, which was the one that Mike McQueary saw, allegedly, Sandusky sexually abusing in the showers at Penn State. So at any rate, if a priest is in a confessional and a fellow priest comes into the confessional box for confession and says that, well, while I was a priest, I sexually molested young boys, the priest can't say anything to the authorities whatsoever about this. I don't know. All these years later, the older that I get, the more this tends to bother me, and I find it very, very troublesome that they can keep these deep, deep, dark secrets. I understand the whole point of confession is that, well, again, a reason why I never really went to confession too often, because if I want to tell God what my sins are, number one, he already knows what they are. But number two, the priest is supposed to be this so-called conduit between the confessor and the Lord. I just find a lot of this very, very strange. You know, it's very, very, very bizarre way to have to operate. But this is exactly what happens. There have been probably hundreds of Catholic priests over the years who have been told some horrific things in the confessional booth, and they're not allowed to say anything. So could you imagine, just picture that if a priest confessed to another priest that he did something disgusting on a young child, that the priest is not obligated under any circumstances to say anything. I don't know. I don't know how I would live with myself knowing that. And not only that, I mean, and this is the other thing, too, that I always found very bizarre about when you confess, if you were a Catholic, that the priest is not supposed to use anything that they hear against you personally in a confessional box. But don't tell me that they don't know. I mean, they certainly know who's coming in and who's not, even though you're supposed to, you know, you technically can stay behind the veil of secrecy, the little door, the little slider door, whatever the hell it is, that closes and opens in a confessional box. But yet the truth of the matter is, I think these guys know, and they have, I'm sure, have is it not human nature that when you hear something bad about another human being, that it sort of changes the way you think of that person? So, I don't know. A very intriguing story in New York City. The guy admits to murder. Fortunately, it wasn't under the guise of confession, but if it had been, that priest wouldn't have been able to say a word about it. I don't know. All these years later, the older I get, the more it just seems to get to me. 19 minutes past the hour. Cadessa here with you on KCN60 here on DARPATV.com. We are going to take the first of 2 DARPA TV breaks. When we come back, there's plenty to get to, including a mother who left her kid in a sweltering hot car in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. She's from Kearney, where I grew up. Also, a woman in the state of Washington who was once a mayor of a small town there has gone from being a mother to a registered sex offender. And we'll also take a look about this shooting plot that was spoiled or foiled in the Baltimore area just today, a potential copycat from the Aurora, Colorado thing. So we'll get to all that stuff, and of course, if you want to shove in, click on the lips and get on. Right back on KCN 60. It is 22 minutes past the hour. Canessa back with you here on KCN 60 on this Friday evening. Good to see so many familiar faces here in the chat room. To those of you who are here for the first time, I welcome you. And, of course, if you are a regular, thank you very much for being here. Jersey Rob, just checking in, of course. And, Rob, don't worry about it. Just the fact that you're here is a blessing in and of itself. Don't worry if you're not here at the top of the hour. I know you got a lot going on your delivery routes and all that sort of stuff. So thank you for being here regardless. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Now, before we went to the break, I just gave you a little rundown of a couple of the stories that I want to get into now. Now, this is something that I have to be very, very careful about, because anybody who knows me knows that I am an extremely, extremely forgetful person. If you were to tell me a story 20 years ago, I could remember it as if it were yesterday. I remember ancient history better than I remember anything that I heard 15 minutes ago. If you tell me a story today and expect me to remember it tomorrow, I'm probably not. My short-term memory is basically gone. If you ask me to do something 15 minutes from now and you don't remind me 14 minutes later, the chances are I'm going to forget to do it. I just have a terrible memory when it comes to quick things like that. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. It's happened as I've gotten older. And Matthew's here, too. Ah, very good. There's Matthew Rodderman, who's checking in from Rockaway, New Jersey. Good to see you, too. Just showed your brother. Classic moment from KCN 60 from 2009. Say hi to everybody for me, Matt. Thank you for swinging by. Now, back to what I was saying. Memories go quickly. As you get older, you'll find out. When you turn 37, as I am now about to turn 38 in a couple of months, you do realize that your memory tends to go. However, let me ask you this question, folks. Any of you who are parents out there, and I know there's at least one parent out there. I know for sure Jersey Rob has a beautiful daughter who must be close to 2 years old now, I would imagine. Right, Rob? She's getting close if she's not, which is just remarkable in and of itself. But if you're a parent and there's something going on with your child, I don't care what the hell it is, home, school, inside, outside, if you don't know and you have a young child, every single detail about what's going on with your child, something is absolutely wrong. This woman who lives in Kearney, New Jersey, where I lived from 1985 to 2004, 2005, whatever the hell it was, I don't even remember, took her child to Lyndhurst, to a shopping center, and this happened.
Live tonight thanks to a stranger who pulled him from the intense heat of a locked car. I'm Christine Johnson.
And I'm Maurice Dubois. Tonight, the boy's mother is facing criminal charges. CBS 2's Sean Hennessy talked with the hero, a woman who says she went into mom mode.
A closed car on a hot day nearly killed a little boy left alone for 30 minutes.
He was like lifeless. I'm sorry.
Karen Wagner was walking in this Lyndhurst Plaza Saturday when someone told her about a baby boy strapped in a car seat with the windows up all by himself. At that moment, an assistant fire chief happened to pass by and opened the car doors.
It was like opening the oven on a turkey. The heat just hit you.
The 17-month-old was pulled out of the car.
He was just drenched with sweat.
And he wasn't moving.
He was dying in that fire chief's arms. And I said, the baby can't drink. What are we doing? He said, pour the water on his head. So I started pouring and I was rubbing his head going, please, baby, open your eyes.
Medics soon arrived and rushed the baby to the hospital. The mother, meantime, Tatiana DeLeo, came out from shopping and was taken into custody. As for why, she said she forgot the child was with her, say police. She forgot the baby was in the back seat.
He's a forget, yeah. I think this is stress.
The baby's father, Sergio DeLeo, admitted he was upset.
Of course, yes. Why? I'm a father, no?
But he defended his wife, calling her a good mom.
She said, forget, and cry, so I'm sorry.
Those who know DeLeo were stunned.
She forgot the kid in a car? Oh, my God.
Meantime, this Good Samaritan is grateful she was in a position to help.
I did what I did. It's a mom. I'm a mom. That's it.
DeLeo's husband says she's going to get checked out by a doctor to make sure she's psychologically okay after what happened here. And he says his son is just fine. In Lyndhurst, Sean Hennessy, CBS 2 News.
DeLeo is facing charges of child endangerment. The Department of Youth and Family Services is also investigating.
And we're
Now, I understand if you're a parent, there are times you think, as I said, here I am 37 years old, and I've forgotten many, many things at many, many different times. But when you're a parent and you leave your child in the car under any circumstances, I just don't quite understand. I don't quite understand it. And this is a woman who lived in the same neighborhood I did, for crying out loud, in the same town, and it's remarkable. And the Joe, and I'm wondering if that's Diamond Joe there, saying, does I'm sorry resuscitate kids yet? I mean, it's so true. It is remarkably true. It is absolutely remarkably true. These people are just so fucking irresponsible. It's not even funny. And I'm the last person to talk about parenting. I don't want to make it seem like I'm any kind of authority on parenting. I'm glad I'm not a father. I don't think I could be a father at this point in my life. I don't even know if there's ever going to be a time where I could see myself as a father. But for the love of God, she just leaves the kid in the car, goes about her things, and does her little thing in Lyndhurst, goes on a little shopping spree. Oh, I forgot the kid was with me. I don't know how you get into a car. And the distance between where she lives in Kearney to Lyndhurst is probably just a couple, I think it's probably about 6 miles, 7 miles. So it's not like it was a long trip, and the kid is there with her the entire time. Somehow she says she just forgets. It's just absolutely remarkable what's going on with some of these people. So that's one of the stories that I wanted to get to for those of you who are in different parts of the country or out of the country. Just a remarkably stupid woman in the town of Kearney, New Jersey. Now, another story that broke today. Potential copycat was planned outside of Baltimore, Maryland, and this story broke today. Did you hear about this? This is a guy who worked for Pitney Bowes for a bunch of years and was let go. And he basically told one of his supervisors that he wanted to blow off the head of anybody who was a higher up in the company. And somehow he was stopped. And I was going to show you a video of this. Unfortunately, I just realized that I didn't upload the video, so there's nothing I could do with that. So I'm just gonna skip over this. But if you didn't get a chance to see this, check it out. Check out the ABC station in Maryland. This was a copycat plan. What I do want to do, though, is move my attention a little bit back to Penn State. We haven't talked about Penn State in a couple of days, but some really menacing and disgusting stuff broke last night. If you haven't heard this voicemail yet, it is a purported voicemail that Jerry Sandusky left on the cell phone of the person who we know as victim number 2. And just as background, in case you don't remember, victim number 2 was the kid who was allegedly being sexually assaulted up against a wall, the slapping sound that former Penn State assistant coach Mike McQueary said that he heard and reported, that whole mess. This supposedly happened, this voicemail, just a couple of weeks before the story broke, which is just mind-boggling that up until the very end, this son of a bitch was a fucking predator. Listen to this.
A huge development here in the Jerry Sandusky case. Lawyers say they have finally found victim number 2, the boy that former Penn State assistant coach Mike McQueary said he had spotted in the campus showers with Sandusky back in 2001 at Penn State. These lawyers, they released voicemail messages. They say Sandusky allegedly left for this victim number 2, last year. And just to remind you, this audio was provided by lawyers who say they have found victim number 2. Here you go.
I was just calling to see whether you had any interest in going to the Penn State game this Saturday. If you could get back to me and let me know, I'd appreciate it. And when you get this message, give me a call, and I'll have to talk to you later. Thanks. Love you.
The same lawyers represented several other victims in the Sandusky case. Remember, Sandusky was convicted last month of 45 counts of sexual abuse. CNN contributor Sarah Ganim is on the phone with me. And Sarah, I just have to begin with why now? Why release the messages now? Is it to try to prove that this boy is indeed victim number 2 here?
Brooke, the best that I can guess is that they're getting ready to file a civil suit. This man did not come forward to his attorneys right now. His attorneys are telling everyone for the first time. He actually came forward back in November, not long after Jerry Sandusky was arrested. But the way he came forward was very interesting. He went to Joe Amendola, who's Jerry Sandusky's defense attorney, and said, you know what, I think that's me that they're talking about. I was that boy in the shower, but nothing sexual happened. Joe Amendola says he intended to call him as a witness at trial for Sandusky. But once the boy hired an attorney, Joe Amendola said, you know, I guess we're not going to be able to use him anymore. Now, fast forward 8 months, and he's coming forward saying that he is a victim of abuse, that he had been abused before that Mike McQueary incident, after the Mike McQueary incident, and he intends to sue because he says his abuse, he believes, could have been stopped if Penn State officials had done the right thing back in 2001.
We know Sandusky, as we mentioned, convicted of those 45 counts, yet to be sentenced. Would this have an impact on that case?
I don't foresee it having an impact on that case. He didn't take the stand and testify during that trial. It's not clear at this point if prosecutors are going to bring more charges against Sandusky, because when he goes to be sentenced in September, he's really looking at a de facto life sentence because of his age and the amount of years that the convictions he carry. So whether or not this becomes a new part of a new criminal case is pretty unlikely. Where this, I think, has the potential to impact a criminal case is actually in the cover-up part of it, whether or not he could potentially be a witness for the prosecution in the trial of those 2 Penn State officials who are charged with never reporting this abuse and then lying about it about a decade later when they were subpoenaed before a grand jury.
So there's the voicemail from Mr. Sandusky saying I love you to this kid who has pretty much accused him of this disgusting act. I mean, and he's saying I love you to the kid. I love you. I mean, I guess I'm somewhat speechless here. Very little that there is out there that can make me speechless, but this was one of them. And the players continue to just baffle me a little bit here. Some of the players yesterday took to the media and made comments about how they're going to move forward. Take a look at this, which will be hopefully an impetus for sort of further discussion.
We want to let the nation know that we're proud of who we are. You know, we're the true Penn Staters. You know, we're going to stick together through this. We're going to see this thing through, and we're going to do everything that we can for the university. We know it's not going to be easy, but you know, we know what we're made of. We know that through this grind, there's going to be tough times ahead, but we know what our coaches are made of, and we know what the university is made of. And we're ready and willing to fight and stick together to get to this thing through the end. You know, as a team, we don't see this as a punishment. This is an opportunity. This is the greatest opportunity a Penn Stater could ever be given. We have an obligation to Penn State, and we have the ability to fight for not just a team, not just a program, but an entire university and every man that wore the blue and white on that gridiron before us. We're going to embrace this opportunity, and we're going to make something very special happen in 2012.
Yeah, that's right. We take this as an opportunity to create our own legacy. This program was not built by one man, and this program sure as hell is not going to get torn down by one man. This program was built on every alumni, every single player that came before us, built on their backs. And we're going to take that right now. This is our opportunity to do that.
You know, when we go out there every Saturday, we suit up for our teammates, first of all. The second of all, it's for the fans, the students, and all the families in Nittany Nation that support us through all this. And, you know, we're going to do everything in our power to make them proud, and we're going to do everything in our power to get this place back on track. But I'm personally calling out every member of Nittany Nation, all the students, faculty, fans and family members, alumni, everybody that there is. Please come support us through this, because we need you just as much as you need us, and together we're going to get through this thing to the end.
Yeah, no sanction, no politician is ever going to take away what we got here. None of that's ever going to tear us apart. And right now, all we can do, we can put our heads down, and we're just going to work. That's all we can do. We're going to fight for Penn State. We're going to fight for each other, because this is what Penn State's about, fighting through adversity. And we're going to show up every Saturday, and we're going to raise hell.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming out, yeah.
I guess I've got to remember they're kids, but again, I didn't hear a single one. That was just a sampling of the kids who spoke. There were more who certainly did speak and who were not on that video, but I certainly didn't hear a single one of them say anything about any of the victims and about the state of affairs. You know, who gives a shit that you're going to come and you're going to play every Saturday afternoon in the fall? You know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's great for you. That's really great news to know that you guys are going to come and show up and play for an organization that is as despicable and inhumane as it is. So good for you. I'm very glad for you guys that you're going to go ahead and play. But you know what, guys? It's not about you right now. And I don't want to really... it's not fair to come down on late teens and early 20-year-old kids here, but what the point of that was, I still don't get. And the fact that they did not bring up the victims or the entire situation, realize what a terrible situation that they're in to begin with, just shows how out of touch so many people are. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. You know, I gotta be honest. I would have expected better from Kim Jones. I really thought she was going to take the high road here, but apparently she hasn't. Kim Jones of WFAN, formerly of WFAN and the S Network, now I think of the NFL Network. And she did a good job. You're right, Petey, when the story broke. She was a very good sidekick to Mike Francesa when the story first broke, and she was very, very good. But I guess she's drinking some Kool-Aid here. I don't know. I'm getting upset and I'm getting ticked off at this, so I'm gonna let it go for now. Bottom line is, this whole situation, this is the last time we're gonna talk about it here, because I'm sick of talking about it too. But the more and more I see of this, the more disgusting it gets. 40 minutes past the hour. Canessa here with you on KCN 60. Second of two DARPA TV breaks coming up, and we'll wrap things up on the other side. Don't go away. Be right back. It's 41, almost 42 past the hour. Canessa back with you here on KCN 60. And if the Joe in the chat room is the Joe who I think it is, Diamond Joe writes a phenomenal column on sportsrants.com, a la the way our buddy Phil Mushnick does and the way that Bob Raceman does in New York City, and of course Neil Best for Newsday on sports media. And I hope you get a chance to check it out on sportsrants.com. He just does a phenomenal job as a media critic. And I'm going to do something similar right now, but it's not sports related. If you did not see this yet, you've probably been sleeping, but there's a guy on ABC News by the name of Brian Ross who is a commentator, and during the whole situation out in Aurora, Colorado, was charged with going out and finding information as quickly as possible about the shooting suspect. Comes back on the air on the air. And he goes and he does this report about the shooting suspect, again, whose name I will not ever mention on this program. And while he does, he comes back and he says something about the person who he thinks the suspect is. He says that he's a member of the Tea Party. And it turns out that that whole information was incorrect. And he barely made a backtrack after it was all said and done. I mean, and you know, the journalistic integrity in this country, it's just gone. It is just absolutely gone. It doesn't seem to matter anymore how what type of integrity a man or a woman has as a journalist. It is unfathomable. I went to journalism school nearly 20 years ago. How much getting it right matters so little now. It's now about, again, just getting it first. It doesn't matter if it's accurate. It doesn't appear anymore. As long as you get it first and you're the first news outlet to break a story, that's all that people seem to give a shit about. Ross comes out and he says all these things, Brian Ross does, breaks the story, and this guy has absolutely no connection whatsoever to the Colorado Tea Party, as if to say, and I'm not defending the Colorado Tea Party, I'm not defending any Tea Party for that matter, but as if to say, see, here it is. He's a member of the Colorado Tea Party. So because of that, now you understand he's a madman who went on a rampage and shot dead 12 people, shooting 71 altogether. Not the case at all, but that's all they seem to care about. And when you are an organization like ABC that doesn't have a cable outlet to go along with your major news situation, they seem to want to get it first even more when they have the opportunity to break news, okay, because they want to be ahead of the 24-hour news cycle and the 24-hour news stations like CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. But this guy just completely lasted up. And you want to know what kind of punishment he got? What kind of suspension he got? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'm going to tell you something. I have been a journalist since 1992. Okay, so it's 20 years that I wrote my first byline story in the Jersey Journal, January 2nd, 1992, 20 years ago. To this day, when I write things on a blog, if I am not 100% certain that what I am writing, unless it's an opinion piece, is completely accurate, I am not going to post it. There is nothing I detest more as a journalist than when one of my bosses comes to me and says, Kev, you have to run a correction. You got it wrong. Nothing should irk a journalist more than being told that they have to run a correction because something that they reported was inaccurate. And to this day, 20 years later, even if it's something so simple as writing something about WFAN, my blog, if I am not 100% certain that what I'm writing is true, again, unless it's a commentary, I'm not posting it. And how these guys do what they do and get away with what they get away with, it's just mind-boggling. Absolutely no repercussions whatsoever to ABC's Brian Ross for saying that this guy was a member of the Colorado Tea Party when he had no connection whatsoever to the Tea Party. None whatsoever. But you know what? As usual, Jon Stewart comes through and says, I think what a lot of people were thinking about throughout this whole ordeal. Take a look at this.
There is one area of this meth that I think is also worthy of comment, and it's the subject of our news segment. What story does a guy have to blow to get in trouble at ABC? You know, obviously when these types of stories occur, news organizations are scrambling to inform the public about the event.
I want to go to Brian Ross here, because Brian, you've been looking at investigating the background of Jim Holmes here, and you found something that might be significant.
Oh, that's George Stephanopoulos, anchoring the ABC News coverage of the shooting, throwing to his colleague Brian Ross, who found something, I believe George Stephanopoulos used the phrase, that might be significant. Go.
There's a Jim Holmes of Aurora, Colorado page on the Colorado Tea Party site as well, talking about him joining the Tea Party last year. Now, we don't know if this is the same Jim Holmes, but it's Jim Holmes of Aurora, Colorado.
Obviously, the correct response to that statement is, Brian, I thought you said you had something significant. Not, hey, George, let me interrupt you. I put the name James Holmes into my search engine and hit the I'm feeling lazy button. Of course, Stephanopoulos is in the middle. Stephanopoulos is in the middle of doing a lot of things, but I'm assuming he was under the impression that Brian Ross checks out the he's saying on air before saying it. Since Brian Ross is their chief investigative correspondent and not, let's say, The Office gossip.
Yeah, I Googled Jim Holmes, and he's totally a porn star, and I'm just, George, I'm just saying the killer is a porn star? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, that's totally John Holmes, but, whatever.
So, of course, 2.5 hours later.
An earlier report that I had was incorrect, that he was connected with the Tea Party. In fact, that's a different Jim Holmes. He is not connected to the Tea Party.
And
what we do know about him is that he's a 24-year-old white male who went to Colorado for a PhD.
No. And I am really sorry. Really sorry. Deeply sorry. Deeply, irrevocably sorry to the innocent man that I casually, baselessly, and publicly accused of, I don't know, maybe being a mass murderer. Because when I was Googling his name, I saw the phrase, the Tea Party, and I thought, oh, that's a pre-existing narrative. I should get that on the TV. This killer may have been a member of the Tea Party. Who gives a What does that have to do with anything? Why is that? Huh? George, Tea Party? Low taxes? Mad Men? You do the math. But hey, no harm, no foul, right? Except harm! And this dude isn't even grounded? Doesn't get detention? You're ABC. Sentence him to Wipeout. And that concludes our segment. Can a brother get a suspension up in this bitch?
Sometimes Jon Stewart just gets it, and whether you agree with his politics or not, he absolutely hit a home run on this one. Again, how there's no suspension or no not even barely an apology. It just blows my mind. This dog-eat-dog world in journalism really sucks. If you're a traditional journalist, as I am, it kind of bugs me, I guess, to a degree, because traditional journalism as we know it will never be again. And it can't be when you have Twitter and you have Facebook and you have people who purport to be journalists and just want to get it out there instead of getting it right. And I just don't see any reason why it's going to change at this point in time. It's sickening, but it is what it is, and it's something I guess I'm going to have to live with. It's 52 minutes past the hour. That's going to do it for this edition of KCNC. Going to wrap up a couple minutes early tonight. Want to thank each and every one of you for logging on and for joining me here tonight on DARPA TV. It's certainly good to see so many of you tonight, and especially some new faces. Good to see Keith as well, who's been here in a while, and Matt, who haven't been around. Matt, please say hello to everybody in the family for me. I will be back probably sometime tomorrow. I'm not sure. Just check Facebook and Twitter for times and listings. Hopefully we'll be back at some point tomorrow, if not Sunday, or maybe Monday. I don't know. Just take a look, and it's always good to be with each and every one of you. So that'll do it from just outside of downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Kevin Canessa signing off for now, and we'll see you back here the next time. Hope to see you very, very soon. Good night, everybody.